time for Two Guys and a Goalie with Dustin Nielson, Matt Kassian, and the goalie, Joaquin Gage.
Well, you sat down to watch a hockey game Monday night, but I guess you got some of the Halloween programming that's been on many channels this week. A true horror show for Oil Country, a 6-1 loss to the Columbus Blue Jackets, and, of course, an injury to Oilers captain Connor McDavid. Now, again, we do not know the extent of this injury. I'm sure you've seen the same speculation that we've all been seeing, that perhaps it's not serious, but that doesn't mean the captain might not miss some time here as a chunk of a season that has not been going that well overall for the Oilers to this point. Hope you're having a great Tuesday. Thanks for spending your noon hour with Two Guys and a Goalie. Reid Wilkins in for Dustin today. I got Joaquin Gage with me. And, of course, Matt Kassian checking in remotely. How are you doing, guys?
First, if I can start, as probably Cass just unmutes himself anyway, happy birthday, Cass. I hope you had a great day yesterday. You don't look a day over 25. Hopefully the ladies in your life treated you well.
They did. It was a good day. Pretty low key. It was good. I do got to say, because I know obviously, as we mentioned, we're going to talk about Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers, but equally as disturbing at this moment is the F1 fantasy site is currently down. Something is going on. It is not working, and it's just as concerning to me, really. Wow. At a critical point of the season. So, aside from that, I'm good. Good to see you, Reid. Good to see you, Gager. And it'll be. We got lots to talk about today.
Don't worry about it, Cassie. If you were to see it, just imagine me in front of you, right? Okay, that's basically what you're seeing.
All right, well, that doesn't affect me as I'm not part of this F1 stuff. I'm still asking Gager, how's Elaine Prost doing this year? That's still the last guy I remember. Oh, no, all right. Yeah, and look, heavy topics in Oil Country, but we will have some fun throughout the next hour as well. But let's start, guys. Cass, I'll start with you. Because I find that the guys like you who played might have different perspectives on injuries, because maybe you experienced something like that yourselves or saw a teammate, whether in the NHL or junior or major midget or whatever. You know, there's always a different perspective on injuries. So when you saw that, you know, the little tick from Werenski, the going into the boards, and of course it's been slowed down so you can see the ankle or the lower leg maybe, you know, flex a little bit. And then how he behaved as he went off the ice. I mean, clearly he didn't need a stretcher or didn't appear to be in a 10 out of 10 type of pain. But nonetheless, Castle, just for you, your impression when you saw that whole sequence of the injury.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is sometimes injuries, even if they're big injuries or small injuries, unless someone's like breaking a tibia, like their shin bone, and it's like you see the thing bend in half, which sometimes you see that in plays. You know, you see a guy go into the boards and it's like his ankle bends completely the wrong way, and you're like, oh yeah, that's an injury. But that doesn't always mean that you're going to be able to tell based on the video, no matter how much you slow it down, what it is. What's much more telling to me, and always is as a player, is how did he react afterwards? So that walking down the hallway, having to leave the game, and even more than that, the dreaded heading back to Edmonton for evaluation, because that tells me, they're not able to fully evaluate on the road. Like, it's not like, maybe he tweaked something a little bit or pulled something a little bit. You're probably looking at something to make sure that there's no structural damage, whether it's knee, ankle, whatever. Like, there's something more that's going on here. Now, that doesn't always, doesn't always follow, because every body's different, every injury's different. I go back to my own. I had a grade 2+ tear of my MCL, and it's like I finished that game, but I knew immediately something was wrong. Like, I put weight on that leg, and I just felt warm. It's like it'd be like if you took a rubber band and you started wiggling it side to side. That's how my knee felt. It was just like there was nothing there. Like, you could just feel everything bend and shift inside. And I finished the game because my coach asked me to, and it was a gong show of a game. And then, going through the process to go get an MRI on that, all that after. But yeah, it's, I would say, you're probably looking at something, even again, based on the sending him back, him not finishing the game out. You're probably looking at something that's going to be not an insignificant injury. You just hope it's something that's still relatively minor. That's a week to week versus month to month sort of thing. But guys, it could be something big. Anytime you have to come home for evaluation and not just get evaluated quickly on the road, something's going on.
Yeah, no, at first glance, when you see it, how he gingerly comes off, I think, and not like, because he took a stride, right? And then he coasted the rest. So he knew there was something off, and the way that he stepped off and supporting himself with the boards, you knew it. I mean, obviously, when you went back and looked at it, you saw there was something a little bit more. I found it interesting that they said, oh, he's not going to be back the rest of the game. I go, okay, well, maybe that's precautionary to me if there's something there. But for them to say, no, he's coming back to Edmonton for further evaluation, that in itself gives me, right away when I hear that, I think that is at least 2 weeks to a month that he's going to be. Which, I mean, a lot of reports came, it's not serious. I mean, serious would be not back till playoffs.
To me, right? That's months.
Yeah. So for them to say not too serious, I still look at that healing time frame within that month. First glance, it looked like, ankle, knee kind of thing. I was jokingly saying to some of the patrons at Boston Pizza, they asked me, and I said, oh, it's a 4 to 6 MCL. And the looks on their face just completely drained out. Thank God they had chicken bites.
Here's a question for you guys, though, both of you. If it's something where, let's say it's in that 4 to 6 to 8 week range, do you stretch him until, like, as long as you can? Should he not come back until playoffs and you have a swath of cap space to use? Is that something you guys would consider, or are we just way out of, I don't know, just off base for doing that?
No.
Yeah, LTIR forever.
No, he'll want to play. He wouldn't sit out.
Someone jumped up in the back of BP's and yelled out LTIR right when it happened, right? So actually, that was me, I think.
I just a quick side note. The last when was the Kucherov year? I don't even remember which one that was. And then all the Stone stuff last year.
Yeah.
I'm just astounded. Well, not astounded, but it's just like how many fans now become just LTIR. Yeah. Put them on, then bring reference. I mean, it's not obviously quite that simple, though these other teams made it look that simple in these cases. But I know where you're going. But if Connor McDavid is ready to play January 1st, how would you tell him that? Plus,
no, you can't.
Record gonna be
and he's going to play.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, he's going to play. There's no way. I mean, I say that, I guess, pretty facetiously. More as a knock at Tampa and Vegas, but I mean, we will have to see what happens with that. I would, if they're saying it's not too serious, you probably are in that weeks stage, Gager. You're absolutely right, as opposed to the month to month, week to week. But certainly not anything with what you want to see the season happen. Is you want him to be able to fully recover, right? You don't want to rush back anything with Connor McDavid. You need to give it whatever time it needs.
All right. Oh, sorry, Gager.
No, I completely agree. Even if it's 85 to 90% back, I say wait until 100. Like, this team should be good enough to allow Connor McDavid to heal properly and to that 100% mark. It's up to them to make sure that their record's not in the pooper where he feels like he has to come back. Right?
Well, and that's the issue of how they're playing or not playing is something we'll get to as well here. And I got some numbers about where they rank in certain categories that you guys may or may not find interesting. Cass, I did use a bit of analytics stats in this, but
that's okay. You know what? It's helpful. Reid, I don't know. You've probably heard my rants, and everyone always talks about how much I hate it. I don't hate analytics. I like them when they're used properly. I hate people that just throw them around as the great predictor, because they're not a predictor. They're an explainer. Yes. Analytics are an explainer, not a predictor. And so to use them to say, hey, let's evaluate where the Oilers have sucked this year and looking at some of the player areas they've struggled, I'm all for it. So I'm looking forward to it. We can actually properly use analytics as a descriptor, not as a predictor.
And I'm going to tell a story as well from somebody I knew who had a kid playing junior hockey and how a coach totally misused some of those stats. So, and we're going to dive into last night's game specifically as well and some of the things that went wrong. I'm sure you guys have been there. A top player on your team goes down. do different teams handle that differently, or is it always deflating, or are there the guys who think, because, these guys are all alpha personalities, or the guys who think, okay, that sucks. I play more. I'm going to win the game now. Like, what happens on a bench? What's the mood like when something happens to a star that early in a game?
I mean, it differs position to position. If I'm on the Edmonton Oilers, though, I'm not too worried. Like, obviously, there's the initial shock. O'Connor's not coming back. But I look around in the dressing room. I go, we have more than enough in here to do something. I've been on teams where those guys are heavily relied upon. Like, I don't know, Cass, when you were with Ottawa, did Karlsson ever go down for any period of time? I mean, that probably was more of a shock to that team at that point, because he was just such a center figure with everything offensive and defensive with that team. Whereas Edmonton, I think it's okay that he either, I mean, obviously you don't want him to be injured, but the fact that he is, they should still be able to be a team that hovers above 500 even without Connor McDavid in the lineup.
Yeah, I think so. It is. I'd say it's very different. And for me, it wasn't an experience of Karlsson already or getting injured. He had already been injured, with the Matt Cook skate incident. So he was already out when I got traded there. And so for me, I didn't get to see how the team responded to that. I got to see how the team responded when he came back way earlier than, it was insane. Call it fast healing, call it superhuman powers, call it whatever you want to. There's no way he should have came back as fast as he did, but he did. And he was instantly the best player on the ice and completely game-changing for us from a team standpoint. But I have an experience where you've had good players go down, and they really do. I find there's no middle ground. It's like one of two ways teams react. You either react where everyone just rallies together and is like, oh, next man up, let's go. And everyone kind of pushes harder, does more. And the flip side is it's just completely deflating. And you're like, oh, we're never going to win now. And it kind of felt that way. And maybe there's other things going on too, that game against Columbus for the Edmonton Oilers, where it was just deflating, which to me is a little odd, because in the past when McDavid has been hurt, they generally have kind of done okay. Like they've hung in there. So I would wager that that's probably what we're going to see as well. They have enough really good players that can pull them along that way. But yeah, it's first time for this group that we, have seen McDavid go down early in a game. They didn't react that well. That being said, as you mentioned, Gager, and Reid, I don't know what you think of this, and so feel free to chime in, but they have enough other weapons that they should be fine. Should is the operative word there.
Last year, they played 6 games without McDavid, so the 2 before the Heritage Classic. They lost 7-4 to Minnesota and 3-0 to the Rangers. That was as part of the bad start to the season. Then remember, he had that issue in April, late in the season. Mm-hmm. They beat Vegas 5-1 without him. They lost 3-2 to Arizona. And then they had that game against Vancouver where they still mathematically had a shot at first in the division. It was going to be tough. And they lost 3-1 to the Canucks. And then remember, he came back for a couple of games, and then they sat he and all the other. Wasn't that the game they sat out all the top 5 guys? Bouchard, like basically the top 5-man unit, and they lost 5-1 to the Avalanche. So just one win without him last year. One of the games was obviously meaningless, the last one of the season. So yeah, that's the context of that. All right, so last night's game, with or without McDavid. It just, I think I used the word that they were indifferent towards checking. I mean, it was a pretty disappointing performance last night.
I know at this time of year, in certain sports, especially baseball, no-hitters are an important part of the season with pitching. But a no-hitter in hockey usually means that you're not going to win. The Oilers played what looked like a men's league game without any physical contact whatsoever. That was the easiest game for probably the Columbus Blue Jackets will have all year to play against, because there was nothing without the puck to make the game difficult for the Columbus Blue Jackets, and it was kind of disheartening, really, to go into there with a chance to get to 500. Do something, have something good happen with this road trip. a huge opportunity missed where these are the types of games, and I said this before, Cass, at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year, if it comes down 1 or 2 points between, home ice advantage, goes, God, why didn't we just pull things together in that game?
Right.
Yeah. Sorry, I just Matty Owana could just fix some echoing. I was hearing you guys like 3 times each every time you talked, so we got it sorted out. So I missed the end of that, Gager. So I don't know, Reid, if you wanna hop in, and then I'll comment.
It's just and I wonder too, guys, and I know it's maybe at some point the comparisons to last season will stop, but you mentioned the physicality. Someone tweeted me last night that they're last in the league in hits. I don't look at the hit stat too much because it varies so much from rink to rink. And I think one of the games they won this, wasn't it in Nashville? They were only credited with 3 hits. I'm like, come on, they played a pretty good game. But it's an interesting discussion to me because, first of all, I don't think they're physical and heavy enough. And I don't think, and I always say this, body checking is one thing, and I love a team that goes out and body checks and grinds. But there's also the physicality of how Hyman and Leon can play where they just stand over top of the puck and say, I dare you to move me. And Fogle had a bit of that, right? That he could get down low and sort of possess the puck. The Evander Kane discussion to me is an interesting one because, I hear a lot of, they don't have Kane. And I often say, but they didn't really have Kane at his intimidating self. Like he couldn't. I didn't think Kane delivered a lot of hits last year because he couldn't skate quick enough to get to the guy.
No, and he couldn't brace to hit. Dealing with abdominal and core issues. It's not like you're running through guys. To me, it's a complete. The Evander Kane. Oh, you need him. To me, right? I'm like, you didn't have him. That's not the issue. Now, what I have time for, would be and kind of back to some of the conversations we had earlier in the year is. Not to say, and I don't think you need to be running over teams, but have you given up from a speed standpoint some of your ability to effectively forecheck, which would lead to more of those hits because you're getting in there and you're finishing some of those hits. Now, I think overall, I would still say Arvidsson's an upgrade on Fogle, but at the bottom end of your lineup, do you have enough speed to be able to generate some of that physicality? And again, not running over people, but slowing people down. Getting a bump in, disrupting the ability for an example like yesterday for Columbus to get up the ice because they have some D that do like jumping in. Are you able to do that? And to say that they could need some more of that or find a body that can do that, I think is a fair argument or a fair assessment.
Well, yeah. Are they setting teams back on their heels? Or do they have that? Even that sense of creating pressure. And okay, so McLeod, what was the knock on him? He didn't actually get in there and hit somebody, but he was still coming at you fast enough. The defenseman realized, well, he might not hit me, but I don't want to turn the puck over to him either, so I might be passing it a split second earlier than I wanted to, even if I'm not worried about getting crushed.
I mean, there's definitely they've lost a little bit of their forward checking speed with Holloway, McLeod, Fogle. Pressuring guys to make mistakes with the puck. And it's hard to use that Pittsburgh game as an example, but I was watching where I was in the rink watching that game, even in the third period. That's usually a point where the Oilers were going to win that game. Right. Everyone knew that was going to happen, but the way they limited time and space of the other team, and it's not like they were running them through the boards, but every time that the Pittsburgh Penguins were getting the puck, you could count 1 Mississippi, 2, and someone was on their player to do something with the puck, right? Eliminating them from jumping in the play. You saw, Cass, you mentioned it, the D of the Columbus Blue Jackets were jumping at will. There was no one getting in their way a little bit, to stop any of their forward progression. So it was a huge step back in my mind from just a couple games earlier. You don't have to run guys through the boards but you have to make the team make decisions a lot quicker than what they were doing last night.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on with that, Gager. Again, it's not about running guys over; it's about forcing plays, forcing turnovers, and that's an area you have to look at to say, have the Edmonton Oilers given up their ability to do that, and do they need to bring someone in that's going to be able to help with that? It's a fair question. I still don't think, guys, though, that's the biggest issue. I still don't think that's the biggest issue. Now, it's a issue. It's something that they can improve upon, but I still don't think that's been the biggest issue so far this season. To me, the biggest issue still has been the execution in the defensive zone, both from when they have the puck in the defensive zone, executing and making plays, and from just making horrible, bad reads in the defensive zone that lead to goals against. And I'll go to the one goal yesterday where Derek Ryan, for whatever reason, decides to try to go behind the net and runs into his defenseman where he has no business going behind the net. His first play should be step to the front of the net. Why are you chasing a guy that's already covered behind the net? And all of a sudden, you're forced the winger to try to collapse down. They don't get there in time, and the puck's in the back of your net. Mistakes like that, to me, guys, don't have anything to do with the forecheck, don't have anything to do with hitting anybody. They just have had lapses and breakdowns and a lack of execution and moving the puck that, to me, has been their biggest issue.
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up. And, of course, we're bringing you Two Guys and a Goalie presented by GS Construction, setting the industry standard for 50 years with quality, efficiency, and safety driving their success. GS Construction has a foundation built on teamwork, and now they want you to become part of the team. Visit gsconstruction.ca, click Ready to Work, or visit their page at Indeed.ca. With the Next Person Up program at GS Construction, it's not just a job, it's a career. All right, so I love how you put that, Cass, and I have found, just from a simple comment that I would make, they don't pass very well.
Yeah.
So better, certainly better the last 5 games than the first 5, I suppose, though last night wasn't great. The things I look at, passes to nobody. Are you trying, and I know now with no red line, you do, but you'll try longer passes, but still a lot of short, simple passes not executed. And then I've been kind of confused as well. In the D zone, they've got the puck settled down. Even sometimes the other team is changing, and it's like they don't know how they're going to break out the puck. Or there was a player in one of the 3 losses earlier in the season. They intercepted 3 passes in front of the net and then just slapped it back into the corner. And the other team just, whoa, thanks, you dumped it in for us again, as opposed to efficiently getting it out. I'm starting to wonder, did they change something coaching-wise, schematically, how they want to break the puck out? Or are guys just sort of, maybe panic isn't the right word, but they're just not in that right mindset to calmly move the puck up the ice? But the passing and breakouts have not been very efficient most of the year, I don't think.
No, I think it's part of it. There's 2 parts when I watch is how I recognize. It doesn't look like the communication is quite where it should be for a professional team. Because how many times when you break down goals or look at them, and there's 2 guys always going to 1 guy, and that tells me that there's a miscommunication at some point. But the processor speed on the defensive side of the puck isn't where it should be. And you could kind of say it on the offensive side too. There seems to be no anticipation. A lot of people I've heard, the Oilers are puck watching, and they are. Mm-hmm. But they're not like in chess. You're a couple moves ahead, right? You're recognizing a play. And it's just immediate. Okay, it's there. Where's the danger coming from? What am I going to do if I get this puck? Where am I going with it next? And it just seems like on the defensive side, especially in their own zone, like you mentioned, they're getting the puck and not know. That's just not being prepared. That's not going, okay, when I get this puck, I'm getting it to the winger, jumping up. This guy should be here. They just seem like they're not. That whole communication side of things just isn't close to where it should be.
How much of that do you guys think has to do with the fact that I don't want to say gutted your defense, because you didn't gut your defense, but you got 3 new bodies in every night to the team? How much has to do with that?
Well, tons. I mean, there's almost let's just look at Nurse and Kassian. And I know we're going back, but I'm just taking an example of guys that have played together and now aren't, right? There was you would say almost there's a sixth sense of when they do play together. There's subtle little reverses. You know the kind of hook and ladder where your partner is going to be with. Now Darnell Nurse has had multiple defensive partners to begin the season. Trying to build that familiarity with your partner does take time, but a lot of that's eliminated by just yelling, and I was usually at games at this time of year at Rogers, you can hear a lot of chatter. And still to this point, the games that I have attended, I don't hear that communication as much. Yet they should be screaming. They should be screaming at each other to where they are. It just eliminates so many things that I see as a lack of communication.
Well, it's interesting because I know a lot of the roster has changed over, but I even remember when Aikens was coaching, and I know that wasn't a great era, but he said something like, we're such a quiet team. Like, we don't chat on the bench. We don't, and I know like McDavid wasn't even there, but it's, and this isn't the first time this has come up over the years where when the Oilers have a bad spell, where's the communication on the ice? Where's the guy yelling? Like, what is the goalie given out? I mean, I know we don't hear everything, but this isn't the first time this has come up, which is really strange to me because except for the core 4 or 5 guys, like it's completely different players than other times this has been talked about.
I've talked to, it's funny, and it shouldn't happen at this level. It's different, but I talked to a couple major junior coaches, and they said the hardest thing to do is get these guys to communicate. And that's what he said one of the major problems was. And this is a generation where, most of the conversation is through text and things. These guys would be sitting in the dressing room before practice and texting each other across the room, right? Like it's just instead of just talking, like it's part of it. I remember when my career was winding down. Yeah, I would be yelling at these kids to talk in Europe, and that's when they'd been texting for a while. I'm part of it in jest or whatever, but this is I just find that it just eliminates so many things from happening if you're more vocal, and even from the bench, like you said, right? I don't want to bring that up, but it's they just seem like a team that's not communicating well.
All right.
They just need to figure out how to send gifts. They got to send gifts. That's how I communicate now.
Cass is going to text us right now. You guys suck. All right. Reid in for Dustin today, by the way. He's getting through something here, so hopefully he's back soon. Joaquin Gage and Matt Kassian along for the ride as well. 2 guys and a goalie. All right. Here, I'll tell my quick story here, Cass. I probably told Gage this before, but I'll recap it for him. So I worked with a guy whose son was pretty good. Like, he played junior A, and then he went NCAA for 4 years. So, I mean, he's not going to make the pros, but hey, got to play hockey into his early mid-20s, got an education, had some good experiences. I can't remember what level it was at. It might have been in junior A. At some point, he had a coach who was analytics. Okay, so great. And he told all the forwards, in every game, you need to have 5 shots on goal. Combined, you need to have 8 shots and hits combined. So shots on goals plus hits had to equal 8 or more. So my buddy says he goes to watch his kids' games, and the forwards are just like out of control the entire first period, like getting across the blue line and just shooting it on net, like either just a wild slapper or just fluffing a long wrister on net to get credit for a shot, and then just going out of their way to deliver body checks, and then all they want to do after the first period is check the stat sheet. Yeah. And it's like, 4 hits, 3 4 shots, 3. Okay, I'll get there today. Coach will be happy. And this guy said to me what you alluded to, that analytics is the result of good hockey, not the cause of good hockey. So that's an example where a coach kind of took it way to the far. Yeah.
I mean, it's a good way of thinking. Like, wasn't it? I think Brett Hull said, "I want to have 5 shots a period," right? Which is quite high. But that was, I mean, he wasn't. This guy was trying to score on all 5 of those shots. He wasn't just dumping it in just to pad his stats. There's a point where, if you look at that, it's going to equal success. But you can't stop playing the actual game.
No, you can't. You can't play for analytics. And again, it's not a predictor. It is not a predictor. It helps you understand. So, I have friends that give it to me all the time. They're like, well, what do you mean you use the eye test? I'm like, well, I watch and then I use the analytics to back up what I'm seeing. And if there's a divergence between the two, then you go back and watch again to see, okay, what am I seeing wrong here? Mm-hmm. Or, are these analytics actually telling me what's happening or not? Because there's so many variables that analytics can't tell you on each individual stat point. Like they just can't. Again, they help you understand what happened. They just don't tell you what's going to happen, which is where it's, I think, a horrible predictor for a lot of things.
All right. Well, despite that, and I'm not even diving deep into, I'm using pretty common numbers here because I continue to believe, and I say it on my show all the time, that this team will score. The power play will get better. I did say they might have a tough October. I did say before the season, I said they might only have 4 or 5 wins in October, but I didn't think they'd get there this way. But I'll just I won't give every single number, but I'll give the league rankings because that's relevant. Power play is 27th. The PK is last, 32nd. So that's bad. Goals for per game is last. Like that's shocking 10 games into the season. Goals against is actually one of their stronger categories, which is 23rd, which is still, it's kind of in that line between below average and poor. It's not good. Here's something I've been looking at. Shooting percentage 5-on-5, they are last. They are just under 5%. All situations shooting percentage, so you factor in power play, empty nets, whatever, they're still last. So to me, that's something that should even out. And then here's the one thing that's I know a little, because even Gager and I were joking about this the other day because I go to that natural stat trick and I look at high danger chances, which has become this buzzword for grade A chances, and there's still some subjectivity to this. But according to natural stat trick, they lead the league in high danger chances percentage at 60. So basically, for every 5 grade A scoring opportunities in an Oilers game, they have 3 of them over the course of the year. So that's the crazy thing. They're creating most of the high danger chances in a game, and yet their shooting percentage is last. So then that begs me to ask the question, why? Like we use the term snake bit. I get it. Sometimes guys just don't finish. But then is there something else that's going on? Is it a talent deficit with some of the players who are shooting? Or are the chances maybe not quite as good as we would like? Is it not enough second chances? I don't know if one of you guys has an answer or an opinion, but it shouldn't be first in one thing and last in the other. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, well, an easiest example for me, so Gager, you jump on this after, but is Zach Hyman, who has how many goals this year? And again, to go, okay, is what I'm seeing, what's happening. Zach Hyman should have scored already. He's had great A opportunities. Normally he buries some of them. He hasn't found a way to. Now, in some instances, goalies have just made great saves. Go to the Pittsburgh game in the third period. Now, you didn't need that goal to win the game. But it's just an example of, they've had guys that have had high danger chances that normally would find a way to score that have not. So it's like, okay, I look at that and that tells me, from an offensive standpoint, they shouldn't be as bad as they are, which you're going to most likely, if you continue to generate those chances, some of those are going to start to go in and you will find a way to start to score, which will help you turn things around. That's what it tells me.
Yeah. And just on the eye test alone, I'd like to see how they record high danger chances and what constitutes a high danger chance.
So completely subjective.
Yeah. So it's hard to kind of see that, but I find that a lot of times the Oilers are one and done with their chances. Their pucks are going towards the net, and the Pittsburgh game was a little bit different, but the second chance opportunities, like there are times when it seems like they're just getting the puck to the net and seeing what happens. I think they have to do more of that. I mean, a lot of times they're facing NHL goalies mano-a-mano, and the goalies are making good saves. Like Cass said, like Hyman got robbed a few times, right? Even against Elvis, I think that backhand, great save last night, right? So, but again, that's a one-and-done opportunity. I'd like to see them get those goals that, I've said this before, that Coach Woodcroft used to say, those goals that are scored in April, May, and June are a lot different than the ones in October, November. They're the ones that are, 5 to 6 feet out from the goal line, that are usually a second chance, a rebound, things like that. Those are the types of goals that they need to be scoring. They don't have to always be pretty. Don't always have to go back to Leon Draisaitl on the backside for a nice one-timer, right? Try to score those hard-working goals. I don't want to say garbage, because no goal is garbage, but those hard-working goals that we saw, I think, from other people throughout the season last year, that's what they have to get back to.
All right, no update on Connor McDavid. Again, coming back to Edmonton today, the latest from the team and for evaluation, and we'll see. The Oilers not skating today, practice in Nashville tomorrow, play the Predators on Thursday. We're this deep into the show. We have not yet to talk about goaltending, which is topic number one for some fans. I did the save percentage as well. The save percentage is 30th in the NHL. At 5-on-5, it's 22nd, so a little better, but with the PK being last, you wouldn't expect it to be very good overall. Look, I look at last night's game. It's everything. It's both ends of the ice, and they also lost the game 6-0 this year. So it's both arguments are valid to me. You will not win a game giving up 6, and you will not win a game scoring 0 or 1, especially 0 most of the time. Gage, I'll start with you since you're the goalie here on Two Guys and a Goalie. Like Sunday, Pickard steadied the ship in the first period and kept them within reach. So then is there criticism of Skinner last night for not doing that in the first period, or was the checking that negligent that he was also hung out to dry as well?
No, you mentioned it. Pickard went into Detroit, and as a goalie, kind of going into the other team's rink, in the back of your mind, anyway, for me anyways, it was always, look, they're probably going to come out pretty hard. Usually what happens at home. You weather that storm by righting the ship, as you eloquently put it, and keep it close. Maybe take a few goals away from the other team in that first period until your guys can, weather that storm, bend, not break, and have an attack of their own. Stuart Skinner, that's as a goalie, that's what you want to do. That's you want to help your team out in that fashion, and you can kind of tell right away when the puck drops. Okay, we're in one here. I'm gonna have, I guarantee in Stuart Skinner's mind, he goes, I'm gonna have to make a few saves here because this isn't. We're not in the right window, and I didn't like the third. The first two, I mean, they're good plays, good tips and stuff, but that's when you get your game to a level where you're expecting those types of things, and maybe you get lucky on some, maybe you're just in the right position, but I look to Stuart Skinner taking not all of it, not all of what happened yesterday, but a lot of what of that loss is your star number one guy just not being able to make a save that helps your team stay in the game.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm being
people
harsh.
are going to be
I'm
mad
being
because
harsh, but I just look to him
always,
after what Pickard did. He should have done the same, Cass.
But like what? So let's look at that first goal, power play goal by the Columbus Blue Jackets against. So still really early in the hockey game. Your penalty kill has been brutal.
I think
we may have a frozen Cass.
And I know what Cass is saying. It was a great tip, right? And I think it goes just under the arm. But again, at that point, you're so hyper focused. Okay, puck's on the side. He's looking to slap pass. I'm looking for different places to make myself big. Just a missed opportunity, I think, for Stuart Skinner, because I've seen him make those saves before.
Right.
That's the thing, And right at the beginning of the game, I understand that. So you're trying to probably just make a save at that point. But look, you're a number one NHL goaltender. You're able to your ability to recognize situations on the ice are better than most. So the amount of information that you're taking in situations. Okay, danger point. He's shooting. I'm there. Make myself big. If there is a deflection, make sure I get belly button to puck. So I increase my chances of stopping it.
Yeah. No, the Oilers were so flat yesterday. I'm not sure. Getting out of that period 1-0 or 2-0 would have made a difference.
I'm back.
We got him. Okay.
I'm back. So connection issues on that, but I mean, to me, like even looking at that first goal, there's so many plays that happen prior to that going in, and Stuart Skinner, like what you're not, that's not your guy, right? Like someone's supposed to pick up that stick, and you have Ryan Nugent-Hopkins who, for whatever reason, gets caught halfway in between. Doesn't force the puck back down the wall. He lets it go to the point. So he has his stick in the middle of the ice against the guy who's left-handed. So bad hand recognition. You know, so if someone goes backhand sauce cross ice through everybody, great. The guy on his wall is on his forehand, chipping it off the wall. So your stick's on the wrong side of the ice. Then you're caught in the wall and you pushed over to where your other winger already was. So now he's late pushing across, gives the defenseman all kinds of time to walk into the zone. And no one's there then coming off the wall because Ryan's now trying to cover for where Ryan Nugent-Hopkins probably should have been. And it's an easy tip for, in a late tip where it's like Stuart Skinner has to save the goal, because if that puck goes to the net, he can't cheat to that side of the ice. That's not his responsibility. Your responsibility, Gage, as a goalie, is not to protect the back door. Right? Like, and that goal, first goal early in the game that gets you going, he had nothing to do with it. And then when we look at next goal again, you have a guy that is left open in the high danger area right on top of the crease. Now, you could look at that one and say, okay, we really want him to make that save. Absolutely. Okay. I get that. But again, to both, and Reid, you already said this, the Oilers also only scored one goal that game, and it was a late goal. So it's like, I don't know. There's lots of problems going on with there. I don't think goaltending is the issue. People harp on me all the time. They get mad at me all the time, but to me, it's not a goaltending issue. It has been a play in the defensive zone issue. But
there was a lot of campfire defense last night. Sit around and watch. I know the game was already over. I don't even remember if it was the fifth or sixth goal, but the one off the backboards. Yeah. And the Columbus guy just shoots it in. I mean, I know Emberson was the closest guy, but I'm sure there were other. But like, you got to tie up how many goals are prevented just by a back checker tying up a stick or slapping at the puck the same time the offensive player shoots it, so it deflects somewhere. I mean, there was very little of that from Edmonton.
Yeah, there was very little bit extra on the defensive side to make sure that they didn't have a good scoring chance.
Yeah. All right. So, again, no update on McDavid. We will, whenever it happens, we'll let you know as soon as we can. I see some of my colleagues in a group chat trying to find out. Nothing announced. Oilers are off today. All right, guys. Here's the other part of the show. We're going to hire it or fire it for GS Construction. They're hiring now. Become a part of their great team today by visiting gsconstruction.ca. or their page on Indeed.ca. For the past 50 years, the foundation of GS Construction has been built on efficiency, quality, and safety. Take your career to the next level. Join the team at GS Construction. So one of the things that we've really seen with the prevalence of social media is I've realized, as someone who covers an NHL team, how elaborate the Halloween costumes get. I mean, there's a Halloween party, and you see the Oilers, like either players will put it on their individual Instagrams, or even the Oilers account itself will be like, oh, look how the guys, you see it from other teams. And in this, before social media, you wouldn't have seen much of this. So I'm just curious, hiring it or firing it, did this happen for you guys? Do you think this is cool? Is this a team bonding experience? I assume a lot of it is probably the significant others, perhaps, driving the costumes. Do you remember a few years ago when Luch was here? he went as the Joker, but he went as the Jared Leto Joker even had the tattoos on his face and the skin all grayed. And I'm like, oh my God, like that's hours of makeup to go to this Halloween party. Was it Jack Campbell or somebody is it Dobby from Harry Potter? Like it's not a human, and he looked like you couldn't even tell it was him. So anyway, I'm rambling here, but I'm just curious. Like, did this happen for you guys? If it didn't, do you like seeing that NHL teams do this, or a story, or whatever? Who wants to go?
Hire it. It's fun. I think it's fun. I'm going to hire it. It's fun. I think it's true. That's not a fun. You're getting to be creative, and if you can do it, do it. I think back to one of my favorites. My wife and I went as Garth and Wayne. So I went as Wayne. My wife went as Garth. Now she's blonde, so she did the hair, like did his same hairstyles he had. It was about the same length, so she did up like that, and I got the Wayne's World hat and had a wig on and wore the outfits. That was a fun one. That same year, Spezza got a bunch of the guys and their wives, and they dressed up as the full cast of Sons of Anarchy. So they got like the full which was pretty awesome. So they like full costumes with that. Guys got the full like Ghostbusters, like real costume, like not like just cheap little ones, but like the full like nice gear. For that one, that was pretty good. So there's always some good ones. There was also some very bad ones. I would say more in the A, back when guys don't have the type of money to really spend on them, where it gets pretty. Some of them were pretty dicey. Some of them I'm not. You go back and you're going like, you probably wouldn't if there was social media now. That would be frowned upon what you wore and dressed up as, and maybe not the best decision in hindsight. But I love it. I mean, it's fun to see. Now, I'm like, it's a waste of money. I would never spend that much on a costume. That's me. But if other guys are going to do it, it can be fun and fun to see. So, I mean, it's a team bonding experience. You're having a good time. You get to laugh at things like guys dressing up like Dobie. Like that's just funny to me. I'm like, someone dressing up like that's funny. I enjoy it. I think it's great. So I'm going to hire it all the way.
Yeah, and I mean, look, throughout the year, there's not a lot of time off to really let your hair down, and go nuts. There's games, and it's a lot different now than it was when you played, Cass. I think with the responsibility of players. So when they get the time and to do it right, I think it's great. I still remember Jesse Puljarvi. He was. Darla from Finding Nemo, I think, and his wife was the
Dory
Nemo in the fish. Like,
Darla the kid.
She was the one banging on the glass.
Yeah.
So I mean, to have the creativity to do it, I'm all for it. I can't wait. As long as Nuge goes as Doctor Strange, I think that's. He looks like
Cumberbatch.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's all I want is Nuge as Doctor Strange, and then I'm happy.
Yeah, it is interesting because you might find out if they are into a comic book or Harry Potter or something like that, or if they just wanted to dress something. Like everybody always says how competitive these guys are. Like would it actually be for real competitive? Like if you showed up, it's like, oh no, like Clefbaum, we didn't think he was going to go that all out. Oh,
I'm sure there's a little something maybe for best dressed, right?
Usually guys would do that. You'd pull something from the team fine fund and money on the board fund, like for your team party, where there'd be like some kind of a prize. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, there'd be something.
Now, what you spent on the costume probably far outweighs the value of whatever you're getting. No, but it's the bragging rights. It's the bragging rights. Right.
Yeah. I just look at some of these. I'm like, they must have started planning this last November 1st for this Halloween. They must think because it's they got to be with their girlfriend or wife or whatever. Like, there's got to be some thought put into it. Okay, where are we going to get this? Who's going to make it and all that kind of stuff? Who's going to do the makeup? Because you guys remember the Luch? The Luch one?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I heard Domi Max spent he was the Heath Ledger Joker. Looked really good. But he was in the makeup chair for like 3 hours, he said. Like, Jesus.
You got to be committed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't know what's happening here at EST. I've been told my partner, Jay Milne, is going to be in costume during the show on Thursday.
Oh, nice.
Now, we have an abbreviated show because of the GCL Diesel pregame show with Tom and Hernan and Cass. So we're 3 to 5. So he's going to be, I think, mostly in costume because I believe he's going straight from here to take the kids trick-or-treating.
Right.
So I don't have the responsibilities, but now I feel as if I have a responsibility to have something, so Jasmine's saying, well, maybe we can do something really simple. I may have found a costume I wore in junior high that I may be able to modify and just wear part of it. And it would probably be something I would just wear for the first few minutes of the show, just to be like, hey, everybody, I got this on. Okay, now I can take it off and maybe put it on again near the end. But now I feel because Jay's doing something that I have to do something. So I don't know.
Cass, are you dressing up for the girls on Thursday?
They've been trying to convince me. My one daughter, who's dressing up as a police officer, because that's really what she wanted to be. She wants me to dress up as a robber. So that walk around with them. But then my other daughter's like, no, Dad, you can't dress up as a robber because what if the real police arrest you?
Right.
So she's really concerned that I'll get arrested if I dress up as a robber. So I don't know. My fallback is for one of the girls' birthday parties. I guess it would have been last year. She wanted a superhero party. And so like her friends and all that, they had, whatever capes and masks, and it was a superhero party. And so I created I made a fake news article that I printed out for the girls and created like this fictional supervillain that I then dressed up as and showed up at the party, like to fight everybody. And those little girls, man, they absolutely beat the snot out of me, like to a point where it was painful. Like you get swarmed by like 8 of them and someone's going to take you down, and then you're trying not to fall on top of anyone, and then they start hitting you, but not like kind of hitting you. It's like they were abusive. You're getting scratched because they're trying to have like a red mask on. They're like trying to pull your mask off. The fictional character was Captain Commie. That was the name of it. Yeah, the standing against. Hated capitalism and all that. So yeah, the evil Captain Commie got absolutely roasted by all the Supergirls. But I might throw that on just to do something, nothing beyond that.
And my kids still like it, even though they're older. My son's 19, but he's going as Dexter. He watched the series Dexter, so he's got his Dexter outfit, which is a little disturbing, but because it looks pretty good on him.
He's too comfortable.
Yeah, no. And then my daughter is a cheerleader, which I am not happy with whatsoever. She put on a costume, and I said, "Where's the rest of it?" Right. So that's a little disturbing, but it'll be good. I'll be chaperoning and chauffeuring on Halloween, I guess.
We should just dress as each other, Gager.
Yeah,
I could find an Oilers jersey with Gage on the back, and you could just put on glasses.
Perfect.
And talk about comic books all day. We're like, hey guys, nice work. All right, just to bring it back to the Oilers for some final thoughts here. In the last couple minutes. So they practice tomorrow. So if you were we're not there. If you were going to watch the Oilers practice tomorrow, what would you want to see from Knobloch? What should he be trying to establish tomorrow?
Well, he should have everyone stand like 3 feet apart with a puck and just pass it back and forth.
Yeah.
Start with the forehand, then do the backhand, then maybe do a little stick handle in between.
And then gradually get further apart.
Gradually get further apart, and you have to call for the puck. You can't pass it unless the other guy calls for the puck.
Yeah,
it's what I do with the 7-year-old in Ringette, and they're working on it. So passing is improving.
Not a horrible idea.
Maybe let's see a little bit of that.
But I don't think that's a horrible idea.
No. I'd like to see a practice that has those types of skills implemented into it, right? High tempo. I don't even mind a little bit of physical play. It's the day before a game. I think they should be fine, but that's the part that's lacking for me most is just simple execution with simple passes and a little bit more physicality, willing to battle to get to areas that are tough.
Yeah. You know what I would like to see in actuality. I love the term up tempo. I would like to see up tempo.
Yeah.
I would like to see 5-on-5 transition. So where you start like with a 3-on-2 down low, other lines waiting, top of the circles, they get the puck, then it's a 3-on-2 rush where you have to execute down. But defensemen also have to execute then once they break up the play to transition the puck to the forwards going back the other direction. So lots of high tempo. I would like lots of speed, but then in a manner of rushes as well. That really is what I would do. I want to see execution in that, transitioning from defense to offense, getting that puck moving north in a manner that's efficient and clean and crisp. That's what I'd want to see.
I like how you use the word tempo too, because I do think that's sort of, and maybe that's more of a feel thing for someone like me watching, but when they get the puck, and you use the word crisp as well, is at least, like, it's not about being perfect necessarily. You realize the other team's going to get in the way, but is it in the next zone, right? Is it crisply, is it quickly in the next zone? And then even defending, okay, the other team might have the puck, but are you on them? Like, and then is your buddy covering where the next pass is going to go? And, you talked about the defensive zone execution, Cass, and just how spread out they look sometimes too, right? Like, can they just be a little sharper getting to the right place offensively and defensively?
Yeah, no, up tempo, and execution. That's what you want to see.
All right, hey, it was great filling in for Dusty.
Thanks,
I wish he felt better.
Thanks, Reader.
Yeah, Cass, good seeing you. See you around the office and online, of course. Gager, you get this spot now.
Yeah, I got to move over.
Hernan and Gager coming up. I'll be with you with Jay for the Reid Wilkins Show from 3 to 6. Thanks for watching Two Guys and a Goalie, presented by GS Construction.